To infinity and beyond. I know what you're thinking. And no, not Buzz Lightyear from Disney's Toy Story. This is about something different, but hopefully just as interesting. So, in accordance with today's theme, what is infinity? Is it the night sky? The mass of all the planets in the universe combined? The largest galaxy that you can think of? Or the universe itself? Or maybe it's something entirely different. An intangible emotion that we feel. The feeling of pure euphoria, of long-awaited freedom. True love? Or maybe it's a number, a value. Something close to 1 trillion to the power trillion. While all of these ideas and concepts evoke awe in terms of their sheer enormity and the extent of what they seem to represent, they may not be infinity. In truth, infinity, it's an idea. The concept of boundlessness in its truest sense. Something that has no end, extends limitlessly, to the point that we just can't seem to define it. But it's also an abstract concept, one that doesn't physically manifest itself in our daily lives. We can't measure an infinity with our given level of technology, and neither can we see or touch it with our senses. But surprisingly, there is a way that we seem to experience this absurd, this fantastical endless idea, a significant but intangible manifestation of the concept of infinity, one that is intertwined in our very existence. Synonymous with infinity, and usually one of the first things we think of when we think of infinity itself. The endless fourth dimension, extending indefinitely till eternity. Ring a bell? Or an alarm clock? Excuse the bad pun, but yes, that concept is time. Perhaps the most primeval of concepts, one that has pervaded all of human history and that of the universe before it, and one that will continue to exist infinitely. But if it's such a hard-to-grasp, abstract concept, how do we come to perceive it in the first place? The answer lies in our observation of changes in the natural world. You see, our ancestors would study the position of the sun from when it would rise in the east till it crossed the sky through the day and finally set into darkness, just to see it happen again and again and again. Of course, we now define this period as a day, but to them, it was the most basic sign of the passage of time. Similarly, with changes in the phases of the moon and transitions in seasons, it is through these repetitive changes, these patterns, these cycles in events that they deduce the passage of time. And centuries later, we continue to use these very changes, these cycles, as the basis of our measurement of time. In fact, in this very watch, the rapid movements, the changes in positions of quartz crystals dictates to me how many seconds and minutes pass by. Even in our most advanced atomic clocks, the rapid oscillations of cesium atoms allow us to keep a track of this ever-moving concept. Essentially, we've taken up this enormous, undefined, abstract idea and condensed it into fragments for practical use in our daily lives, making bite-sized pieces that we can swallow without ever worrying about how big the meal is. So, changes are fundamental to our understanding of time. So much so that changes themselves indicate the movement of time and allow us to perceive it. So we've come to a fun little thought activity for you. Now, I want you all to close your eyes. And remember, I can see all of you, so no cheating. Now imagine that you are in a plain, blank, white room with absolutely no objects, no windows, no sounds, absolutely nothing, not nada. You do not have a watch or any other device that you can use to measure the time. Now, my question to you is, if you were locked in this room for over 2 days, and I asked you at any point in time exactly how much time has passed, would you be able to tell me? And don't worry, for the purposes of this experiment, you won't feel hungry or need to use the restroom, so you don't need to hold it in. Okay, so raise your hands up if you think, yes, if I were locked in this room for 2 days, I could precisely tell you how much time has passed. Okay, how many of you think, no, I wouldn't be able to tell? Raise your hands. All right, I thought so. Most of you would say, no, you wouldn't be able to tell how much time has passed. And for those of you who did say yes, please meet me after this event. But that's besides the point. So, those of you who did say no, why? It's because in such an environment where there are no changes taking place, there is no indicator for us to perceive the passage of time. So, without these changes, these disturbances in the fabric of our existence, there would be no way to tell the time. It's almost as good as if it weren't there at all. So that begs the question, does time itself exist in complete stasis? Or is it something that we as humans just seem to perceive as a result of these changes in our environments? It's a shocking question, but it's not just one I'm asking you as an audience right now. It's one that scientists have asked for hundreds of years and have explored greatly. Now, I'd like to introduce an equation. Scary looking, isn't it? But the purpose behind my introducing this equation is not really what it attempts to explain, but rather what makes it different from its competitors. This is the Wheeler-Duet equation. It's one that attempts to explain the two pillars of physics, general relativity and quantum mechanics. Now, what makes it different from all the other equations is the fact that it does not include any parameter equivalent to the classical physics notion of time, meaning time isn't a variable at all. Now think of all the equations that you've seen in your school life. For speed, acceleration, frequency of a wave, they all relate to time in some way or the other, right? But not this one. In the Wheeler-Duet formulation, space-time, one of Einstein's favorite words, doesn't seem to exist in the classical physics sense. Now, but like other theories, it still remains unproved. But I still think it's very, very useful. Because even if, in a situation where time didn't exist, it's undeniable that we just seem to experience time, either as an illusion or a reality. And in the case of the former, it may as well exist as an emergent property, one that doesn't exist for the individual constituents, but rather the bigger picture, a complex system, such as our universe. Now, explain it this way. The existence of the passage of time can't be shown in one particular instant, part of an event. For example, take a photograph. Just by looking at it, you would have no idea what took place before or what took place after. It shows one particular moment crystallized in time. It doesn't show change, but rather a stasis. But time may appear as an emergent property in the cumulative progression of events, a result of how these events and instantaneous moments are arranged. Just like when you take those very still pictures and arrange them one after the other, you get the phenomenon of a video, the illusion of fluidity in movement when there is none. Now, I believe that we can apply this method of thinking of time as a progression of events to our very own lives. And I know for a fact, if I were to apply it to mine, I'd definitely call it a series of unfortunate events. But sadly, I can't title my autobiography the same. So, as it is, we consider our lifespan, our existence, a definite period of time that dictates our existence. We divide our lives into nothing but mere numbers, decades, years, days, the mere fragments of the concept of time, this time that we spend as functioning, conscious, sentient organisms. What if we substituted time with progression of events? Instead of constantly counting down the time we have or thinking of our future goals and life, in terms of nothing but minutes and seconds and hours, we divide it into events, ones that hold significance to us, activities that we want to undertake, past incidences that have molded our growth as individuals, and most importantly, future changes that we want to see within ourselves. So maybe when you set your next New Year's resolutions, don't simply give yourself 365 days to attain one particular goal, but rather think of that upcoming year as a series of gradual changes within yourself and your environment, complete with milestones that will lead you to that final change, your achievement. As students, many of us count down the days till we are freed from the shackles of a demanding curriculum, focusing on deadlines and dates, and nothing else. When the next proposal is due, when exam season starts, when the next class is going to end, we really focus on nothing else. But what if we thought about this period as a series of gradual achievements, each class contributing to the depth of your knowledge, and finally, culminating in your personal goals at the end of this 2-year journey? So, that brings me to my second takeaway from time. All right, so we've talked about how changes are constantly occurring in our observable world. These changes that are the driving forces in our universe, changes that set all of human activity into motion and span even vaster to how species evolve, how changes, both spontaneous and gradual in their genome, allow them to inhabit their environments, and even vaster to how galaxies interact. Now, change to me is a very important concept because it's one that governs the natural world to such an extent that it's accepted by most individuals and countless literary works that the nature of time is change. Now, it's important to me because change is something that consequently brings variation. New scenarios, new patterns that were unheard of earlier. And it's not just restricted to our daily lives, but spans even vaster to, like how I said, how species evolve, to how whole galaxies interact. But amidst this background of constant change and unpredictability in the universe, we have juxtaposed the seemingly linear lifestyle of modern humans. Linear in the sense, following one straight, unwavering path. The same old daily routine endeavors. First as toddlers, we eat, sleep, and of course poop. Then as adolescents, we wake up, go to school, get yelled at by teachers, come home, do projects, write exams till we graduate. Then as adults, we start each day by waking up, going to work, getting yelled at, but by our bosses, and then come home tired, just to while away the little time we have left till we fall asleep, just to wake up to the same activities the very next day. All right. But, however, it appears as a matter of incredulity, of amazement, that how a singular example of universal human experiences, a single framework for human life, applies to the majority of the population. Right? However, once in a while, there is a deviation, a stray from the norm, an individual who emerges from the majority with something new to offer to the world. Innovators, revolutionaries, they are referred to, those that use the opportunities that change provides to adapt, not physically, but psychologically. Those that change themselves when faced with change. And whether it's towards developing a new gadget that caters to the needs of the modern world, or perhaps a new approach to an old scientific debate, changing scenarios, problems, scientific breakthroughs, revolutions, require changes in our understanding and approaches. With this background of constant change and unpredictability in the universe, doesn't it follow that humans too should reflect this within themselves. Now, I'm not saying you have to completely rewire the way you think or invent the next technological miracle, but you can reflect this change in your daily lives. Change the way you view and act in stressful situations. Change to understand why someone's disagreeing with you so you can reach a consensus. Change the way you travel to school. Take a bus, be eco-friendly. All of these individual changes, however, may not seem significant to you, but when we blow it up to the scale of entire societies that constantly aim to change for the better, that reflect changing situations in the way they think, the property that emerges as an accumulation, as a progression of these changes, is progress. Now, we have this ability to change as our environments are constantly changing. So why should we remain stagnant? After all, changes in our thinking have defined the stages of human progress. How we move from one era into another, from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age, to the Industrial Age, to this technological age, and further into the future. If time is moving ever forward, so should we. For progress, perpetual change with time is the key if we want to achieve infinity and beyond. Thank you.